Hi there. My name is Mary Moore. I'm going to be reading several poems from my book, Dear If, just out from Orison Books, a great press, by the way. And thank you so much, Rebecca Aronson, for inviting me to read. Today, I'm going to read poems from Dear If that are connected to women. And the book in general is a book of doubt, belief, disbelief. It's both reverent and irreverent, and I think you'll hear both of those tones in this selection. The first poem is Dear Pilot, for my dear friend Marie Manila, a novelist and short story writer of note, who happens to be in my wonderful women's writing support group. Dear Pilot, for Marie Manila. Those ephemeral X's, the crossbones where two contrails meet, Marie's father. Signing the sky, her mom said. She imagined a literal heaven where everything means, a world of medieval letters illuminated, capitals bearing birds, animals, vines, as if words gave birth to world. No wonder Marie writes. Imagine the monks at work, heads bent in rows, the pink O's their tonsures frame, the vowel of pleasure, pain, and wonder. Like fontanelles, open again to whatever's above. Today's sign mimics the neighbor's chain link fence, rows of X's, all girls, their chromosomes akin, or their rows of anonymous women, poets, painters, playwrights, history has erased. Poor X, you unname even as you mark the spot where we who are named can sign. Maybe your sign, Pilot, is the skewed cross I once worshiped the burden of. Dear flyer, long gone, do you sign yourself or signal absence? Whose we'll never know. The next poem is an exception to the theme of women from Dear If. Dear God of Lilacs. Throughout the book, you'll find that the god is addressed as a god of many different things. Dear God of Lilacs, you do the lilacs, DEW, this morning along Four Pole Creek, where you also glitter the tadpoles and the doomed, discarded goldfish who glint back, copper and peony pink. A penny for their lives, ours. An orange cat sniffs the lilacs, tail up, mouth slightly open, sign of arousal. The 100 flowerets, 5-petaled and blue-buttoned, form one spur, a brood, a democracy, a many that's one, both ovumed and stamened, delicious flagrance. No wonder Whitman loved lilacs, the pale violet mimicking dawns, bruise and blur, hurting the horizon into becoming itself again. Where's that also you? That space where days and nights rub shoulders as they pass, lilacs, fragrance. The goldfish flick and glint, vanish. Metals urge to be flesh, assuaged for now. And a cat wanders off, tail a plume, trailing odors and lures. Something other than me, that's also me. Is it you? Leans in me toward the lilacs. Dear unknowing, dear brood and bruise. The next poem evokes the Rose of Sharon, who of course is also a flower and is indeed the flower of the Psalms. Wow, my Old Testament knowledge is lacking. Anyway, I'm having a little trouble finding it, which has happened before in Zoom readings and is kind of irritating. So I'm giving up on that because it takes too much time to do this. The next poem I'm going to read from is a long sequence to Mary of Nazareth. Then she was rain. 1, the woods, an Annunciation. And for those of you who aren't Catholic, which I always forget, not everyone is, the Annunciation is when the Archangel Gabriel came to the young Mary and told her that she was going to conceive the Son of God. The poem ends with the ascension or assumption of Mary. In Catholic belief, Mary was born without original sin and was chaste despite having conceived a child. Therefore, she could go to heaven bodily, and that's what the assumption is, the bodily lifting of Mary. So I'm reading the parentheses of this poem, the Annunciation poems and the Assumption poems. The woods, an Annunciation. We stood as if unmoved, we always do, but felt the girl startle, the air's slight tremor. The other presence was neither wood, leaf, nor earth, and lacked daylight's acuity. We felt and heard rather than saw him, like the distant sighing in the word sight, or the slight disturbance shimmering makes in air. We didn't lean away when his tongue touched and entered her ear, but felt the words, the way we know a hawk passes high above us, blue's slight hiss as it slips over blue, a frisson of atoms or air withdrawing from the impending axe. The girl was vibrato, torso shaped like a violin, an instrument perfected for keening, made from wood's moods. We can only resonate, not assuage. Ghost or gust. My hair rose like water weeds' otherness and entanglement. Was the rush or hush a ghost or a gust? And of what? Or was it a belligerence, something sheer and without mercy? Not a somnolence, afternoon sunlight fiddling birches or palms, filtering through wisteria, a solace. It was tidal, like an estuary, a predestination of tides, legible only to those who can read the moon. but why darken it? Maybe the clarity wind carries, which shows the sky to best advantage, and the tall windows framing the miles the clouds travel, unraveling the things they look like: carrots, fish, camelbacks, and a horse almost. The horse named almost, who can't be bridled or ridden. Bewildering, this wilderness nearly without form. How did it narrow to fit me, to tongue my ear? I'm its bell now. That night when I bathed, a feather or scale, palest blue, floated beside me. Maybe it had fallen from my ear or hair, a piece of the water's skin or the weather's, sheer like the breath that precedes a word. Now to the Ascension or Assumption. This is a two-part poem and is set in Appalachia. There is another Ascension poem or Assumption poem in this sequence, which involves a painting by Titian. And in that painting, one of the apostles is shown reaching towards her as she rises above, and that's referenced in this poem. Another Assumption. She rises from the abandoned lot where ragweed, wild violet, and condoms like used daylilies grow, where bachelors have lost their blue buttons and rain broods on the grass like beads the Trappist monks made from old glass. Thomas Merton lived in their monastery, Gethsemane, not 90 miles from here. His poems tended towards in. You can burn the flute, but not the notes, says Large Mind, misquoting Galway Canal. Don't count your beads before they're hatched, says Small Mind, echoing my mother. The 5 crows strung on the phone wire quote themselves and look like whole notes. Everything owes the crows, but Mary. Even the skeleton flowers, native to these lands. Each petal now a see-through cup. The rain turns them sheer like rain. She bends and tongues one. Then she is rain. The woods know her patter. The leaves repeat her. Come back, said Titian's apostle, his whole body beseeching. Blood's call to blood. She is falling and flying. A zillion curved surfaces the open touches all over. She taps her litany of ellipses on a roof for answer. Makes tin a timpani, slates gray a drum. She tongues and slurs the wild violets, the naked ladies' down-tipped trombones. The summer convections lift her to a mist, a brood of beads, a confusion of clarities. Sometimes before her reign, the goshawk, the ghost hawk, furrows the blue and keens its greeting, warns or grieves the high blue note like light hail. It stings and singes the longing cups of our ears. The next poem, Maker and Mocker, is obviously about, well, you'll see it's about Eve. And it will appear in another book to be published by Orison called Between Paradise and Earth, Eve Poems. That's forthcoming from Orison Books. Maker and Mocker. It's neither here nor there, Eve would say, or evening, whatever they call her. She ignores the protocols. She'd rather read the stars and name them, those beautiful campfires he cantored into being. She chants the constellations, wild horse, its mane a wind, dust devils whirled, tornadoes muscled torso. Maybe she named the animals after Adam did. Is, isn't, might be, can't. Big God says she's just a mouth, a lure, who'll play and lithe you, dance your one-holed pipe. She snickers, eats an orange, and finger taps a beat he's never heard. The old table, musical enough to bear both tune and player. Just like her, four-armed, four-legged too, if you count arms among her charms. She makes and bears her likenesses and his. She's Lady God. Her odd reward is labor. I get it. She's odd, irked, outgodded you. Her mimicry mocks. I'm also going to read a poem that has another poem with a very different tone, and it takes off a little bit from the theme of women, although my mother is in this poem. Dear Sod All. Oh, by the way, I'm obsessed with British slang, which I mostly get from Mistrick novels. Dear Sod All. Receive this homage of thumbs up and stadium waves. You're tricky. I thought you meant everything and learn you're nothing. As if the huts are prairies homed, the woods humus, maidenhair ferns, root fur and spur were not. No wonder we can wheedle sod all out of you, who revel in the rift between not and knowing. I laid sod as a kid, squares green, bare furred on the rooting side, and filled the yawn where lawn once grew. Daddy wanted dichondra, moss's kin, fragile leaves shaped like the ace of spades, the spadile, mother's favorite card in solitaire. She died of suicide. The squares took weeks to fuse into lawn. Even the light-footed weren't allowed to walk the new lawn, though little white moths starred it, stuttering constellations, utterings like the skies. Dad's sod all now too. And you? Word without tongue, sleight without hand? Or are you, after all, the ground of all? Earth, prairie, sod. The last poem is also a poem addressed to or about Mary of Nazareth. The tone is more contemporary, quite different from the other poem series addressed to and about Mary. The Marys sequestered. And its epigraph is, the most interesting things to her are clouds, from Mary Zibbis' poem, update on Mary. 1, 21st century Mary of Nazareth. Headache, shoulder ache. Mary wouldn't mind a cocktail. Maybe that aviatrix her friend Diane mixes. Violet creme liqueur, expensive gin, a dash of lemon, and a cherry fancier than a maraschino. It wowed her. Icy lavender, feminine and strong. It nearly anesthetizes worry and imagine. Was her son divine or just a kick-ass shaman? Did an angel engender him or just Joe, the G-man, the G-spotter? She numbs her knees with Celebrex, no dancing today, but several medieval cults, Chartres, the Pieta, honor her. She is enshrined in Giotto's heavenly blue and pre-shriven, the church says, immaculate. Whatever, Mom said when her mind was sunsetting. Mary looks forward to ascension before dementia. Her knees kill her, not that she spends hours doing penance. Is Big G God unkind or just indifferent? Maybe you can't judge a God whose only kin is also him. Where's her next aviatrix? She'll just have to wait and ascend. But will he let her do that? Ride the air, elevator, swim again like the clouds? She likes watching them over the Appalachian ridges. They burgeon and contract. Old ladies, fat bulges, little girls, ruchings and sleeve puffs. Maybe the clouds are all she needs of heaven. Sitting a spell, the grass tickling or itching her feet. She'd like to be boneless, jointless, a woman like a scarf, furling and unfurling air, her body, nothing inside her sheer and billow, wind the only moan. 2, Mary Moore. I too love the clouds and window watch them pretend monumental domes, clowns or statesmen's busts, and gargantuan noses without bodies, half vapor, all shapeshifters. Their innocence, or is it insouciance, soothes me, who schooled in wound. The burn where I palmed the stove burner's red halos, the shin where I first shaved girl blonde fur and peeled my skin like an apple's. The clouds are immune to scars, or their scars are sky. Wild iris and bachelor button blue, Mary's cloak blue. I won't say Hail Marys anymore. I loved her with a girl's ardor, but she's nowhere or everywhere like the wind shear. No aware there, unless there is where air is. Something about the ultramarine bulging along the mountain horizon at sunset, sky color, sea color, the smear. The Hail Mary beads coil in a porcelain jar. Their amethyst, a healing gem, and glacial ice's color, which melts, alas, into the Queen of Heaven, Queen of the Sea's hem. 2 of other Mary's names from her infinite litanies. Sometimes I wear it, and 3 of my 40 Art Deco rings, a sacrilege to wear a rosary, but vain Mary's one of my names. Porch now, I feel the air lift my still blonde arm hair, or maybe it's white, almost transparent, like whims, ghost wishes. Part 3. A ghost, maybe of me, chilled me when St. Joe's Fey Reiki practitioner told me she sensed Archangel Michael's presence around me. I loved his holy card images, wide shouldered, his armor pale, almost lavender. She couldn't have known. Sky Michael. I'd fused him with Earth Michael, my first green-eyed, gold-haired love. If somebody bigger loved me, I don't know who. A girl, I thought it was Mary, robed in sky and clouds scarred blue, and one so thin it's a hint, a nuance, an after or forethought. Maybe that's me, bodiless, jointless, a wisp or wish vanishing into the horizon's leaking shrine where the aviatrix comes and goes, her fuselage painted lavender and white, where the earth ridges and furrows like stalled waves, and the woods leaf foundries manufacture air, breath, blue. Thank you.